Well, good morning and welcome to the Great Transition Senior Living Seminar Series. This is our February installment, and we're going to be tackling the topic, "The Times They Are Changing," quoting a little Bob Dylan there, debunking the myths around medical weed. I'm really glad that you have joined us today. This is our 78th seminar. The seminar series was founded by my good friends Paul and Lynn Henderson. Lynn is here today, and we're really glad that she is. The whole purpose of Great Transitions is to guide seniors during one of life's biggest transitions. It's a system for working with seniors and their families as their lifestyles and housing needs change. And as I referenced earlier, that could be 3 years, it could be 12 to 18 months, or an event could cause it to happen really quickly. And we want you to be prepared. We're here to guide you through the entire process and genuinely believe that helping and guiding those that have helped and guided us is our biggest calling. And so we thank you for the privilege of being able to serve you today. That is our Great Transitions way. Through the seminar series, our goal is to educate people about legal, financial, housing, medical, and other general issues and topics of importance as we age. We are not here to try and sell you anything, but we do have a couple of questions that we want you to keep in the back of your mind. Number one, who's going to be tasked with making the decisions for you when you're no longer able to do so, and will you agree with the decisions that they make? So that's the important part about creating a plan. And then once you have created that plan, have you shared that plan with your trusted advisors or loved ones, the people that are going to execute that? So please keep that in mind as we go forth. We will progress through the meat of the seminar and why we are all here today. So this is our second installment in our Behind Closed Doors series. We named it Behind Closed Doors because these are the topics that sometimes people don't want to talk about. So we thought we'd just put it out there. Some of us in the room are old enough to remember the war on drugs that took place in the 80s, Just Say No, and all the negative connotations that come with marijuana. We remember all of that, and we're here to talk about how times are changing. According to the American Nurses Association, marijuana has been used medicinally for centuries. It's been shown to be effective in treating a wide range of symptoms and conditions. And just a reminder, use that sheet that we gave you to write down any questions, because I'm sure there will be a few when we finish up. And with that said, I'd like to introduce our expert panelists to you today. On my far right is Cam Martin. He is the Senior Manager of Retail Operations for TRP Company Cookies Retail. Cam holds a Bachelor of Business and Administration, this sounds really impressive, from the Davis College of Business at Jacksonville University. Cam is a lifelong Florida resident and is committed to ensuring the members of his community have safe and reliable access to the products cookies dispensaries offer. Cam has worked for multiple multi-state operators and has been in the cannabis industry for a decade. Were you like 12 when you started? Most recently for TRP Company, which has multiple national brands under their umbrella. TRP currently holds a cannabis license in 10 states. And as I understand it, different states have different compliance issues and operational needs, and you're overseeing a lot of that stuff, so we're really glad to have you here today, Cam.
That's correct, thank you.
And next to Cam, we have Brian Cohen, and Brian and I have a connection. I'm super excited to announce that we are both burrowing owls from Florida Atlantic University. We graduated a few years apart, though. Yeah. Just, I think so. So it's nice to have a fellow owl in the house today. Brian graduated in 2014. I won't mention when I graduated. He has a business degree, like I do. And while becoming a Florida medical marijuana patient, he began to gain a huge interest in the medical marijuana industry. And in 2019, he founded CannaCare Wellness. In May of 2022, he opened a 1,500 square foot office in Claremont, which has helped put CannaCare Wellness on the map, and they now see patients 7 days a week. In October of 2022, I think this is really cool, CannaCare Mobile, their mobile medical marijuana doctor's office was launched. And Brian's biggest passion in all of this is educating current and prospective patients about the benefits of this amazing plant. We are so excited to have you both here today, so thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Let's just jump into the questions and start the dialogue. Cam, I'd like for you to start and just tell us about the terms. We hear marijuana, cannabis, weed. Are they all interchangeable? Are there other terms?
Yeah, they're considered interchangeable. I'm sure you all have heard a lot of terms as well: hash, ganja, bud, herb, pot, chronic, blunt. I can go on. Grass, green, but they are interchangeable.
Okay, great. And when we hear, there are other terms that we hear a lot, and now we see in the stores: THC, CBD. Brian, can you kind of break down what those two terms mean and give us a little education around that?
For sure, happy to. So CBD and THC are both abbreviations for their real names. So CBD is short for cannabidiol. THC is short for tetrahydrocannabinol. These are what's called cannabinoids. So cannabinoids are part of the cannabis plant. Cannabis naturally grows from the ground. It's naturally containing these cannabinoids. At the same time, our bodies were born with what's called an endocannabinoid system, which consists of receptors. They're called the CB1 and CB2 receptors. They're in our central and peripheral nervous system. So it's no fluke that this stuff works. We're born with these receptors. The plant naturally grows from the ground. When we consume CBD or THC, they bind onto the receptors and we feel relief. CBD and THC are both very similar. There's a lot of people that are maybe apprehensive about trying THC and they try maybe CBD first because they really do help a lot of the same things with anxiety, stress. They're big anti-inflammatories. Just for some people, CBD isn't strong enough and they need the additional benefits of THC. Again, there's maybe some apprehension with THC because it has a euphoric and psychoactive effect. But if we're looking to treat a condition like anxiety or depression, we kind of need that psychoactive effect. It's no more psychoactive than alcohol or a prescription, anti-anxiety like a Xanax. It's a different feeling, but it's no more intense than either of those, other routes that sometimes people use to cope with how they're feeling.
Okay, well that makes it sound a little less scary. Pretty simple.
It's definitely not as scary as it may sound to some people.
Okay, great. So Kim, I want to start with you. Let's talk about some circumstances where it might make sense to consider a cannabis product for medical use. And is it medicine?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely considered medicine now. More and more research is being done. With the federal illegalization, unfortunately, universities and public groups haven't been able to necessarily do as much research as we would like to this point, but it is starting to be done, which is great. Medical marijuana is recommended by physicians, MDs or DOs right now. CannaCare houses a couple of doctors, obviously, that recommend cannabis. On that flyer that Nicole was able to print out for everyone, you will see a little list of the conditions as well that you will be able to get recommended cannabis for. Anxiety, PTSD, depression are just a couple of those. And also if your doctor just feels like the benefits outweigh the negatives of using cannabis in your condition, they are also able to recommend cannabis. So getting your card in Florida has actually, it's not as strict as some people think. A lot of people have qualifying conditions, and they might not even know it.
Okay, so, Canacare Wellness deals with a lot of those. Can you kind of expand on those qualifying conditions a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I can't mention this on the flyer, but most commonly, a lot of our patients are coming in for anxiety, depression, chronic pain, PTSD. A lot of people with Parkinson's disease. Very common for cancer patients. Maybe Crohn's disease, MS, epilepsy, glaucoma. There's really an infinite number of conditions that will qualify you, because essentially if you have, let's say, an ailment that I didn't list, oftentimes that also creates maybe some anxiety or depression or chronic pain. So you would be able to get qualified to become a medical marijuana patient. Another thing too, just circling back to like circumstances, a lot of people that come to our office, they are brand new to cannabis. They've never tried it before. We have a very large senior patient base. And a lot of people kind of look at cannabis as a last resort. They maybe tried some different medications that haven't worked for them, or they're getting maybe some severe side effects from those other medications. So with cannabis being a natural plant, it doesn't come with any severe adverse side effects. And that's really a big reason why a lot of people want to try using cannabis.
Awesome. And I think I was talking to some of you earlier. I'm not going to look at anybody or make eye contact, but some of you are here because your doctor said, yeah, go check it out, learn a little bit about it. They are seeing the benefits rather than having to prescribe a prescription painkiller or whatever. So let's talk about the process, because that's a concern for a lot of people is, my internist or my family doctor is not going to prescribe this. I've got to go through a whole different process. And so this is new, and this is what we want to learn about. Cam, you're more on the dispensary side. Let's talk about going to a dispensary. Do we just show up at a dispensary and say, hey, I need something? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, we can talk about the process of getting your medical card. It is, you do have to go see a physician in person for your first visit. Telemed has recently become available right after your first visit. If you have that relationship with your doctor, you can actually call in for your next recommendation. The moment that you see your doctor and they do approve you and recommend you for cannabis, you can actually go ahead and step inside a dispensary and make your first purchase. So getting your medical card is immediate now, where there used to be a couple days, even a couple weeks of lag time in between receiving your card. So as soon as you have your recommendation from your doctor, you can go see any dispensary in Florida. In Florida, we are a vertical market, so all dispensary groups are responsible for growing their own cannabis, producing their products, and then selling them in the retail stores. So 3 big parts of the business there. With that being said, dispensary groups sell a variety of products, and from group to group, you might find different products or different offerings on the shelves. We definitely recommend finding the products that are right for you all. Obviously, the group I work with, Cookies, we have a wide variety of products, which we will get into eventually. But there are currently 22 active dispensary groups in the state of Florida, and they all have a lot of dispensaries now throughout the state of Florida. So finding the local dispensaries might actually be a little bit easier than you think, where you might see them actually right around town.
Okay, so it's not like Walgreens versus CVS and they're going to have the same things on their shelves.
Correct.
What's at Cookies is not going to be at XYZ.
Yeah, the genetics plays a big part of it. So that's the biggest thing is the actual plants are different. And the genetics that we carry are sought out and a lot different than other companies find.
Okay, so there's some research involved, maybe getting to know the people at the dispensary to see if you're comfortable with the information that you're getting there.
Yeah, not only find the right medication for you, but finding the right setting to purchase your medication
Okay, and if I walked into a dispensary and just wanted to get some information, are they gonna be friendly and helpful, or are they gonna be like, come on, man?
Yeah, I can speak for cookies. Our bud tenders are very knowledgeable. They are not salespeople by any means. They are part of the culture, part of the environment, and I would say they're more stoners than salespeople. And they want to make sure that they're giving you the right products. We kind of teach the method of low and slow. So if you are buying a product in our dispensaries, they're going to suggest buying a small amount, taking a small dose, even logging that dose and creating kind of a journal and seeing how the effects play out after you take that dose. And then from there, if you didn't feel the effect, we can always go up. But what we don't want is we don't want to over medicate and feel a little uncomfortable, awkward, and then have to scale back from there. So low and slow is our method. It's not a sales pitch by any means.
So let's unpack that a little bit further. Different applications are available. I know before we did this topic, I called a couple of our communities and I said, we're thinking about talking about medical marijuana. Do you allow it at your community? And the comment was, well, we're a no smoking community. So we know that's off the table for people that are in retirement communities. But what are the other, and that's probably what most of us know about marijuana, what are the other applications that are available in the dispensary?
Yeah, outside of smokable flower, there's a good amount of applications. You have your vapes, you have RSO, which is a very medicated product. It actually comes in a syringe. Take a small amount, you usually take it orally. There is rosin products, we have edibles, we have sublingual products, we have topical products. So the variation there is applications definitely vary, and there's a wide range of using cannabis now, and it's not just smoking flower like a lot of people were used to. The onset times and the duration of these products also vary as well.
Okay. Let's talk about that, Brian. At CannaCare, people are going to talk to a doctor and they're going to get some more information. How do we know, like, what questions do we ask about which product should I use? How often should I use it?
Yeah, for sure. So in the medical marijuana industry as a whole, nationwide, it's not called a prescription, it's called a recommendation. So no one's ever being prescribed, hey, you have to take this, or you have to take that, or you have to take this much of it. It's called a recommendation. So what we do is we recommend that you try all the different types of products and you use whatever works best for you. Now, it could be a little bit of a trial and error. Fortunately, the error, like I said, is not going to be an extreme adverse side effect like you can get with a prescription pharmaceutical. So what we recommend, like Cam had kind of mentioned, is start low and go slow. Start with a lower milligram dosage and kind of work your way up and see how well it reacts with your body. The different routes, also like Cam had mentioned, have different onset and duration times. So, not an option in the, assisted living homes. Smokable route is the smoking or vaping would be the quickest onset. Those effects you feel in within 5 minutes, usually 2 to 3 minutes. The duration of smoking or vaping may only last 2 or 3 hours, while like an edible, which could be like a gummy, a cookie, a chocolate that they sell, they're medicated in a package, or a capsule, they sell it in a pill form. They have tinctures or little droplets you put on your tongue. Those all can take an hour or 2 to kick in, maybe 3 depending on your digestive system. Some products are water soluble, some are fat soluble, but those products will last a lot longer. So if we're talking about like a use case of maybe having trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, if you're to smoke or vape before bed, that'll help you fall asleep really quick. But if you eat an edible following that, by the time you're asleep, this edible is going to kick in. It's going to have that sustained relief to keep you asleep through the night. And, or even, let's say you're just having pain through the day, it'll give you more sustained relief by using a consumable route like that. They also sell topicals. Those have a rather quick onset, I would say 5 to 10 minutes. It's a quicker onset if you're using a heat or cold compress to the skin first and have the skin absorb the topical. We also sell, or not we, but the dispensaries sell transdermal patches. Those often can stick on your skin for 2-3 days, and really good for pain. Really good way to kind of have a microdose, you can say, of the cannabinoids to have like a long-lasting effect.
So like the patch, is that like localized?
Yep, that would be for localized pain. And then also there are some that are more like a transdermal that you would kind of apply to an area where you have.
So I have
some veins.
arthritis in my hand, I could put something there?
Yeah, I would recommend putting that patch kind of, you want to put it in the area where there's like veins and stuff
Okay,
present. And yeah, you would definitely feel some good relief from that.
okay,
And it would last for a few days.
all right, very cool. So if I'm considering cannabis, and we've got people here whose doctor sent them here to get some more information, and maybe I'm on another list of medications. Are there recommendations that you have around that, time of day, obviously depending on what it's being used for? And then I guess the other question is, are there any underlying medical conditions that would preclude me from trying a cannabis product?
Yeah, for sure. So first off, and maybe you should have started with this, I am not a doctor, I'm not a physician. I am the owner of the office. The doctors that work for me, we have our own kind of like training that they go through to educate them. So a lot of the education that the doctors are teaching our patients is kind of like a program that I developed, but they obviously have their own knowledge and background in medicine where you could, ask them a little bit more confidently about some specific medications. But generally, we recommend that, if you're brand new to cannabis, trying it at nighttime, trying it at the end of the day where you don't have to go anywhere, in case it maybe hits you a little bit harder, you feel the effects a little bit more than maybe intended to. But, as far as other medications, there's very few that have any sort of negative effect with cannabis. A major one that we kind of see is if you're on a blood thinner. Cannabis is a natural blood thinner, so if you are on a blood thinner, that's like one of the more common ones we see to kind of ease a little bit more caution. But overall, there's really, what we see in our office is patients coming in that are maybe on 7, 10, 13 plus different medications. And then when they come back in and see the doctor for the renewal, they're down to, maybe half that and then half that again. So it's really common for patients to start eliminating those other prescriptions because just the one medicine of cannabis is replacing all these different prescriptions. So like with a prescription, you usually have one, it causes other side effects, you need another. Where cannabis doesn't do that, it'll do the opposite. It'll kind of make you don't need all those different medications.
So it really sounds to me like this is kind of, we talk about this when we're making a downsizing plan, that you kind of assemble your all-star team of advisors. Really, you want your physician, your general practitioner, and you guys on that all-star team for your health and wellness.
For sure, yeah. Like I said, our doctors that work for us, they are MDs. They have, their Florida medical license to be a doctor, as well as they have a separate certification from the state to recommend cannabis. There are some general practitioners out there that are a little bit against it. It may be because they have influence from the pharmaceutical companies and they're maybe afraid of losing their patient that is providing them, their income through insurance and this and that, where, because once you start using cannabis, it's very common that you just don't need these other prescriptions. And, I don't necessarily know exactly how that other side of the industry works with those doctors, but from what I've heard, they get some sort of something back from these prescription pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah, I think it's big to mention too, in states like we said, Cookies is licensed in 10 different states. Every state that we're licensed in, we've seen the numbers in pharmaceutical, alcohol sales, and tobacco sales all go down when cannabis becomes either medically approved or recreationally approved for those states. So there's a direct correlation in people in pharmaceuticals backing off their medications when they do switch over to cannabis.
Okay, cool. So let's get back to the practicality of it. Going to a dispensary. I had a friend that I told him we were doing this seminar, and he's like, "Oh no, not me, because they're going to come take my guns away if they know about this." So, is there a government agency that's regulating all this? Are people going to know? We talked about not being, most of the staff at the dispensary is not going to pressure us into purchasing something, but how do we get that trustworthy advice and make sure that Big Brother's not going to be in our business?
Yeah, it's not reported to any government agency. The program in Florida is run by the Department of Health, the Office of Medical Marijuana Use. And because of HIPAA, there is no list that they can look you up or transfer over. If you have your concealed weapons license, they're not coming after you and taking your license away. It's a little bit of a gray area, obviously, because we're looming the federal legalization for cannabis, but no list that you're going to be reported to or government overseeing, at every move by any means.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about all the positives. And I'd like to delve into what the negatives might be behind this. And this is your business, so you may not have a whole lot of negatives, but we want to address those. And also the limitations of medical marijuana. What can't it do?
Yeah, for sure. So, downsides to cannabis. Let's talk about maybe side effects the types of side effects that maybe someone may not want are also the same side effects that a lot of people are using cannabis for. So a side effect of cannabis could be drowsiness, where a lot of people are using cannabis to help them sleep. A downside could be, so what on there?
No, it's tough. It's tough to find the downsides for us.
A lot of people associate cannabis with getting the munchies, right? Maybe you're eating too much, but a lot of people are using cannabis where they're maybe having a lack of appetite, so using cannabis to increase their appetite. A lot of cancer patients use cannabis for that reason. Any downside that can be for one person for cannabis could be an upside for another. And then as far as like the limitations with cannabis, there really aren't any. There's very few cases where it doesn't work for someone. At the end of the day, all of us are different, right? So even with like prescription medicines, right? One prescription may work for one person and may not work for the next, may have an adverse side effect. But luckily with cannabis, like I had mentioned, you're not gonna experience an extreme adverse side effect. So when you're consuming the plant, you're very likely to feel relief, but there is maybe that 1 in every 100 people that their endocannabinoid system just isn't, as receptive to those cannabinoids, and you're not going to get the effect that 99% of the other people are experiencing from the plant.
So it's really, you just need to see how it works for you.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and same thing kind of on that. One person may consume one strain, right? We've heard of like different strains and types of cannabis, hybrids, and because it's a lot to kind of get into, which we explain very thoroughly at our office during your visit. But one strain may work really well for one person, and then you try that same strain, you're like, oh, hey, Brian, you really got to try this one strain, and it gave me the best night of sleep. Cam might try that same strain and not be able to fall asleep at all. So everyone's different, right? That's the beauty of life. We're all different. And certain products may work better for some people than they work for others. But that's why we recommend you start low, you go slow. Like I said, it could be a little bit of a trial and error. But it's, in the long run, it's very beneficial.
And then with Cam, what you were talking about with the dispensaries are, it's like fork to table, right? They're
Yeah.
growing what they are selling. So what's available at one is gonna be different. If I go to one place and it doesn't work, I may have to go to another place and try a different, is that what you're talking about when you say
Yeah.
different strain?
Yeah, different plants, different genetics, like I mentioned. Every company brings their own genetics in. It's usually different from the next company. So finding those strains, it's very similar. I hate to use wine, but wine is very similar in the sense that the vine that it comes from, the grape that it comes from, it creates a totally different product
Sure.
when it's bottled. And the same is for cannabis. So there's a lot of similarities there. And the treatment that vine is given and how it's fed and nurtured, through its life cycle, is different from company to company. So finding those products that are right for you, finding where you get the best service. There's dispensaries readily available now throughout Orlando. So I would say, find a place that you're really comfortable and then start exploring the products. Once you find products that work really well for you, try to stick to those products.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Did you find this information helpful? Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're gonna open it up for some questions, because I'm sure we have a few. If I could get a couple of the educational partners to come to the front of the room with a microphone, so you can see who's raising their hand. It's a lot easier to do it from this perspective than from the back of the room. So do we have any questions? Just just a second. We'll bring the mic to you. We want to make sure that we capture the question.
Hey, my question is, if you have a green card, is it usable in another state that has a dispensary?
Okay, so the question is my Florida medical marijuana card good in other states?
Yeah, so some states are reciprocal. So you can shop in some states. If you have your medical card in Florida, for instance, and you go shop in our cookie stores down in Puerto Rico, that is actually one of the ones that are reciprocal. So you get the benefits as if you're a medical patient. So the biggest benefits right now is taxes, right? So for instance, just opened a store in Chicago. They're seeing 35 to 40% taxes on recreational products, whereas where the medical patients in Chicago, there's no tax. So right now in Florida, it's only a medical program, but if you do shop in other states that are reciprocal, you will be able to use your medical card and get those advantages.
And if I were in a state, like let's say I had a vacation home in a state that didn't have that reciprocation, I would have to get a card. Do you have to be a resident of the state to get the card?
Yeah, that's a great question too, and that varies from state to state. So that's the fun part about cannabis, is every state is different. You're not technically supposed to cross state lines with the products, things like that, and all these states are making their own rules. So under federal legalization, hopefully we can get under one umbrella. But for right now, you do have to be a part-time resident in Florida to get your medical card. So you don't have to live here full-time. You have to show proof that you live in the state of Florida for at least 30 days. So if you have a townhome or a condo somewhere and you pay the electrical bill, turning in that electrical bill will get you approved for that part-time status.
Okay.
And then Florida doesn't, as far as reciprocal states, currently Florida is not reciprocal to any other states. So if you have a friend or a family member that has a medical card in, let's say, New York or somewhere else, Florida unfortunately doesn't accept those cards. But like Cam mentioned, a lot of places, at very least, you'll have some sort of a cost savings by having your Florida medical card, whether it's saving on taxes or they just give a discount for it.
Cool. Elaine, did you have a question? Melanie, Elaine, would you raise your hand so Melanie knows where to go? Sure.
So you mentioned cost, and that's what.
A little closer. No, you hold it. Yeah, right there.
Okay. So you mentioned cost, and my question was, is there any insurance coverage for this? And if not, what are we talking about in terms of cost?
Okay, that's a great question. Cost,
Yes.
does insurance cover it?
Yep, so unfortunately, insurance does not cover cannabis. And that is because the insurance industry is federally regulated and medical marijuana is not federally regulated. So the insurance companies are not able to provide any assistance with cannabis. Now, we try to make it an affordable service. the cost of products here in Florida are substantially less than other states, especially since we're a medical market. There's no tax on top of the purchase, where some of these states that have recreational, you're seeing 25, 35, maybe even 40% on tax, where it really jacks up the price. We're here, you do have some upfront costs to get the license. Generally, you can speak on this?
Yeah, because it's gonna be across the board,
Okay.
it's gonna be,
Yeah.
give us a price range.
Yeah, so, you could see maybe anywhere from $150 to maybe $350 to get your medical card. There's also a fee you pay to the state. We have really affordable pricing, and then there is a state fee of $77. So you pay the state a state fee every year, $77, and then you pay your physician, your medical marijuana physician, every 210 days for a renewal, which is, it's the state's way of regulating it essentially. So like, when you go to the doctor, you get a prescription with a certain number of refills. You have to go back and see your doctor again to get, refill the prescription. So 210 days is the state maximum we're allowed to recommend for. It gives us 70-day increments, and 210 is the maximum. So it's about 7 months. You come back and you see the doctor. So, we charge $150 for it. Some places charge a lot more. And the amount of money you're spending on the license and the card is a lot less than other people are spending over the course of the year on taxes to buy the products. And then these dispensaries like Cookies, they have really good pricing. They always have different discounts and sales that it's kind of designed to offset the cost of getting your card. So the pricing's already really good, but a lot of places are doing 25%, 35% off. There's different specials every day. That it's kind of like getting a Costco membership, right? You're paying up front for the year of your card and stuff, but then the discounts that these dispensaries like Cookies are offering are substantial, where it's offsetting that cost of getting the card.
So a little upfront investment and a variety.
Yeah, I would say Florida has the lowest prices I've seen in any of the states. I travel to different places. I'm always visiting different dispensaries. The pricing here is very competitive in Florida with the dispensaries. It's really not breaking the bank nearly as much as some of the other states I visited.
Okay.
We do offer a senior discount as well.
We always need to ask for that, for sure.
So approximately what are the patients spending per month to buy the product?
So the question is, what is an average patient spending a month in a dispensary?
It's a great question. It really depends on use and how many different varieties that we talked about that they're using, how many products that they're getting. I would say on average they're spending $100 to $300 on product. Again, just depending on how many products they're purchasing, if it's just flour or if they're getting the topicals, if they're getting.
So if I was getting a low dose gummy to help me sleep every night.
Yeah, a low dose gummy to help you sleep every night. It's going to be on the lower end. I would say even a couple bags of gummies, or gummies come in 10 per bag. I would say you need 1 per night. So it's 3 bags, or bags of gummies cost, I believe, $20 right now. So you're looking at $60 for the month.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Elaine? Okay.
I received an email last week from one of the medical marijuana pharmacies, and it was asking their clients to contact state representatives and state senators. Apparently, there's something going on. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, you're probably talking about the THC cap that
Okay,
was
so
introduced.
let me just repeat the question because I want to make sure everybody's got it. Is there some legislation going on in the state of Florida?
Yes, absolutely. There was a THC cap that was introduced. We had one introduced last year too. They were trying to cap the potency at 10% for flour. This new cap has a cap at 30% potency in flour. If any of you are familiar with cannabis flour, 30% is pretty potent. For a premium cannabis flour, I would say landing in the 30s is a really high potency.
What is flour?
Smokable, the actual that you can roll up or put in a bowl. that is capped there. And then on extracts, which is the oil-based vaporizers or rosins or edibles, they're trying to put a cap at 60%, which is also pretty high, but we do have products on the market that are still higher. The only person, in my opinion, it really affects is the end user. For them to put a cap, and you should vote against it, for them to put a cap on the products, it's asking the end consumer to take more to get that same amount of relief that they're getting on the current product. So you're having to spend more, you have to either smoke or ingest more product. So I'm not necessarily for the cap. It's not because I need super high products. I think the patients at the end are the ones that will be getting screwed if this does pass, because it's asking the patients to purchase more products.
Does it look like it's going to pass?
I think this was a jab at the federal legalization that we're seeing, and the actually a jab, sorry, at it being on the ballot for 2024 to go recreational in Florida. That was it. We got wind from DeSantis that Supreme Court will put it on the ballot. I think the ruling is actually April 1st for that. So we should hear officially April 1st. It will be on the 2024 ballot. When we hear it's on the ballot, there will be making a big push for that THC cap. It's really just people that don't want to see it go legal here in Florida.
I have also been amazed at the attitude of my caregivers. For example, I was on a Zoom call back in the pandemic with my primary care physician, and as the session was ending, I said, "Oh, by the way, I want to tell you that I started medical marijuana." And he looked at me, he said, "Oh, that's great." And this end of discussion. Now, I've got other medical providers, I've told all of them, same basic response, "Oh, good." And then last year, I had a serious problem with anxiety. I went back to my primary care physician to get Xanax or something. He said, "Oh, I'd much rather you just experiment with medical marijuana." So it's like, it feels like there's support amongst the medical community. I can't find clear evidence, though, as to what the long-term effect of smoking it is. I quit smoking cigarettes 20 years ago, and I'm just leery that maybe this is going to increase the likelihood of lung cancer, COPD, all that kind of stuff.
That is a great question. So, long-term effects of smoking or vaping, what do we know now and what's being researched, I guess?
Yeah. So like Kat had mentioned before, there's, a bit of a shortage of research on it. It's definitely been increasing. In Canada, it's federally legal. There's a lot of research being done in Canada. There's a lot of research being done in Israel. The universities and states that have medical marijuana programs are starting to do research. There has been some research done that I have found online in regards to cannabis smoke not linking to lung cancer. No matter what, anything you're smoking, putting smoke in your lungs, putting smoke in your lungs is not going to be as healthy as eating an apple, right? So, there's precaution, rightfully so, with smoking. But there's so many different routes to consume the plant without smoking it. So if someone's, concerned about the smoke effects, there's just so many other ways to medicate that you can still feel the benefits and feel relief from cannabis.
Now I wanted to touch on your point there as well. A lot of physicians will say, "Good, you should try it," things like that, but they're not eager to recommend you. And it could be the facility that they're working in as well. So a lot of this is still politics, right? So if you have a physician in a large hospital, that large hospital might not be recommending cannabis. So that particular physician, he might have done his continued education on cannabis already. He might already be certified to recommend it, but unfortunately where he's working or they're working, it's not allowing them to recommend it yet until we get either a federal legalization or more research comes out.
Does that answer your question? I know you had kind of a multiple part question, so I want to make sure we got everything on.
And I think the underlying is overall your medical team has been positive
Very positive.
about, and I think that's the experience that I've had. I know in talking with a lot of doctors and nurses that absolutely this is something that a person should at least give a try because it is natural.
Yeah, and we hear a lot too, like previous smokers don't want to smoke again. They
Correct.
want to go back to that. And every case is different. I would recommend not smoking if that was a big hurdle for you to get over and you feel great about it.
I am smoking.
Okay.
I want some definitive information. For example, I was in the public store
Okay,
6
so
months ago.
let's see if we can get a couple of extra questions, because I know we had some other people, and then we'll come back to you if that's okay.
Sure.
We usually try to limit 2 questions per person, and I think this is a hot topic.
Good question.
Good morning. My question is for Brian. Do I need a prescription from my primary care physician to make an appointment to come see you in Care? Or do I just pick up the phone and say, hello, can I have an appointment, please?
So what do I need to get a medical marijuana card?
So you need to pick up the phone and say, hello, need an appointment. Simple as that. Yeah, we don't need anything for your primary care physician.
Are you gonna take insurance? You're not taking insurance
No
information?
insurance, unfortunately. We make it a really simple and easy process. You call us, we schedule your appointment for you. We email you an intake form. It's generally filled out on your phone, but if you need to print out, we can do it that way as well. We ask that you fill it out before you come in for the appointment. It literally takes 5 minutes to fill out. And when you come in, you see the doctor. He's gonna give you a full education of how everything works. And then you're gonna leave that same day with the ability to go to any dispensary and purchase products. So we guarantee same day approval. We guarantee the approval. So if for some reason something doesn't work out and you don't get approved, which doesn't happen, but we would give the money back if you don't get approved. And it's same day approval as long as you're a Florida resident. If you're a seasonal resident, it takes about a week to get approved. But it's really, we make it we don't want to make it a stressful process, right? People are coming in to get relief. We want to make that an easy, smooth, simple process, and that's exactly what we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Question right here, Cheryl, hold on just a second.
Along the lines of this lady's question, so what is that? You mentioned $150. Is that what that first appointment's gonna cost me?
Yep. So we generally.
Yeah, first, well, and I think, obviously this is a no sales zone, but we
Yeah, so I
need
just want to
some,
make sure.
we need some examples of, because it's a question in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
If I'm going to ABC Wellness,
Yeah.
right, I pay that fee up front before I see the doctor?
Correct. Yeah. So some places charge upwards of $300-$400. We generally charge $199 for a first-time patient and $159 for your renewals. We do have different discounts. We have different promotions. Veterans, it's $100, and then there is that state fee of $77. So,
That does not change, the
that
state fee
doesn't
is the state
change. The
fee.
state fee doesn't change. There is a motion moving through the courts though to waive that state fee for veterans as well. It hasn't passed yet, but there is some really awesome progress on that we're hoping to see passed through the state.
Okay, does that answer your question, Cheryl?
Yes.
And that
Okay.
$77 you pay to the state, you actually get like a Florida license. It's your medical marijuana card.
Picture ID?
Picture IDs get mailed to your house and
Yeah,
everything.
it pulls the photo directly off the DMV, so you have to come in, retake a picture or
Oh, okay.
anything. And then when you come into the office, you leave with the ability to go to a dispensary with kind of like what we call a temporary card. It's just your patient number, and you present that with your driver's license, which will always work. And then about a week later, they'll mail you a hard copy card. That's all you'll need to present at a dispensary.
Okay. We've got a question back there.
How on earth do you pick a dispensary? No offense to Cookie, but
Right.
they're.
So how do you go about,
corner.
how do you go about picking a dispensary? And I'm reminded of what Dana said, when you pick financial advisor, you want to do some research, right? You want to work with someone that you enjoy working with, that's going to provide you information. Can you enlighten us a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, when you go make that initial appointment with the physician, they usually have some pamphlets or some
Yeah.
recommended dispensaries right there in their office. So right there, the dispensary groups are out of it, and you're getting it from the physician, kind of what they would recommend. A lot of people shop convenience in Florida as well, because dispensaries have popped up everywhere. The effects can be similar, but like I said, at Cookies, we have some sought after products, some sought after genetics. As you kind of really dig into the products, you learn about these differences.
So you may start with what the doctor recommends or what's close to your house
Absolutely.
and just give it a go. So you may have to do y'all remember when there was a Publix here and a Winn-Dixie there and there were certain things you go because you got your meat from Winn-Dixie because it was better and it sounded kind of like that
Analogy. Yeah,
to
that's really
me
it.
with this is you want to just and you want to develop a relationship with somebody.
Yeah, the bud tenders in the store, if you keep going back to the same store as well, dispensaries, they're really good at recognizing their patients, their customers, and making that relationship. It's not just they're there to give you as much time as you need. In cookies, it's a one-on-one service. When you walk in, there will be someone there with an iPad with the menu. We have products on the floor where they can show you on the floor. In other dispensaries, it might not be that. It might just be you walk up to the register and order whatever you want to register with no personal touch there. So finding the
Kind of like Nordstrom's.
absolutely find the place that works best for you.
Yeah, and I heard Cam mention a word that maybe you guys aren't familiar with, bud tender. That's a term that's used in the cannabis industry. So, we know a bartender pours drinks. A bud is a, terminology for cannabis weed. So they're either called bud tenders or med tenders is the term that's used commonly in the industry. And then just back to kind of the original question, at our office we do have a whole table set up of pamphlets and brochures and business cards from all the different dispensaries. My staff is trained that when a patient comes in and they have a question about, okay, well I'm really looking for this type of product. Okay, well you really, well where do you live? Okay, these are the dispensaries that are closest to you that we recommend to try this or try that from. We always encourage trying, as many different dispensaries as you can because they all have different first-time patient discounts. So you really save the most money by checking out the different places and seeing, whether it's based on convenience or product type. And then also, mostly every dispensary does delivery. I know Cookies does delivery. They deliver to this area. So you don't even have to go to the dispensary. You can get it delivered right to your house too.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I think we've got time for a couple more questions. Got one right up front here.
These are great questions, by the way, really. Yeah.
Susan?
I'm curious, when I told somebody I was coming to the seminar, they said, oh, you're nuts. What about addiction? And I've never heard of anybody getting addicted to marijuana.
Yeah.
So is there an addiction issue that we need to
I
address?
have that question. I want to know, are there different sizes when you go in to buy something? Is there just a sample size to see if that's the product that works for you?
Okay, and
So
Talk
with
about what
addiction, generally when someone has an addiction to something, that means if they stop taking it, they're going to have withdrawals. So, if you're on a very serious pharmaceutical, you stop taking that, you might be sick for a week, not be able to get out of bed, be throwing up, whatever that case may be. With cannabis, you're not going to have that. Now, your body's going to be used to consuming it. So let's say you're using it for your appetite increase and you stop using it, it's going to take, some extra time to really get that appetite going. Or you're using it for sleep and now, maybe you ran out of it. So you're going to have trouble sleeping, but you're not going to have that intense withdrawals that are associated with addiction from other products. You're not going to have that feeling of, okay, I need more of this, I need more, You're, no matter what, if your pain is coming back or your, symptoms are kind of coming back, you're going to want to medicate some more, but it's not an addictive.
so if I start with a small gummy every night to help me sleep, 6 months from now, I'm not going to need 6 gummies to help me sleep.
You're not going to need 6, but you could build up a tolerance, just like drinking, right? If someone's a heavy drinker, they're going to need more drinks than someone that's a light drinker. So over time, you may need to increase your consumption of milligrams, but not an extreme from 1 gummy to 6 gummies.
Okay, and then to the dispensary, can you get just a small amount to try it?
Yeah, a lot of products come in different sizes. Bulk pricing is a thing for the flower. Yes, you can buy it in different sizes in the dispensary. It depends on the product that you're buying, but a lot of the products have multiple offerings.
Another question?
And you can also choose how much you want of the product too. I mean, you could, when we talk about start low and go slow, we're talking about, instead of eating that full gummy, take that gummy and cut it in half, cut it into quarters, or, you're using a dropper, start with a small drop. So even though the product might come packaged as like 100 milligrams, you can choose however much or little you want to take of it.
Okay, just consider that one.
Can you explain the difference between Delta 9 and THC or CBD?
Delta 9, I don't even know what that is. So THC and Delta 9.
Alright, so there's been kind of like, they call it like a wave of these different alternative hemp-derived cannabis products. So Delta 9 was the first one to kind of hit the industry. Delta 9 doesn't have to be sold by a dispensary. It's kind of like a gray area in the law where they're taking parts of the plant that aren't testing for THC, but they're testing for THCA or THCC, and they're giving you a similar effect, but it's not exactly the same. The biggest thing to be cautious of when you're talking about like a Delta 9 product or some of these alternative cannabinoids that are maybe sold over the counter is that there's absolutely zero regulation behind that industry. So they can put whatever they want to put on the package and tell you that you're getting what you think you're getting, but it could be completely something different. It could be a chemical makeup of that. It could be something that's giving that effect, but it's not really what they say they're giving you. Where with Florida and the dispensaries and the way that they grow the products, it's so regulated. So this whole like seed to sale or fork to table, that creates a lot more regulation than some of the other states even have, where every dispensary has to grow the plant, they're processing it, turning it into whether it's a gummy or into a tincture or a topical. So Florida actually has some of like the tightest regulations for the dispensaries as far as growing and creating their products, where opposite Delta 9, absolutely no regulation. It's definitely suspicious a lot of those products that they're selling with those labelings.
Yeah, the state picks up our products before we can sell anything. Yeah, so testing. So we get a COA, certificate of analysis, and they test for heavy metals, pesticides, everything before we can send our products to dispensaries from our distribution into land. With these hemp products that are being sold over the counter, there's none of that. It's the biggest difference.
Oh, wow. So is it a quick question? Because we got to wrap up. Okay, one more and then we're going to wrap up.
This is a basic question, the function of the physician. I know you go there to get a card. After that, is that the end of your relationship? When you have a physician, you have an ongoing relationship.
Great.
The physician might suggest some products.
Okay.
And then you come back and have another appointment and the
Right.
physician guides you.
Okay, so what is the relationship that I create with the physician at Canacare, for example?
Fantastic question. So, that will definitely vary from which physician you decide to get your medical marijuana card from. At Canacare Wellness, we're all about our patients. So we choose patients over profits. That's one of our mottos. We are here for our patients. We want to make sure that our patients get the relief that they're looking for. So when it comes to the ongoing relationship, we're open 7 days a week. Whenever a patient has a question, we encourage our patients, call us anytime. Even on a Sunday, we're open till 8 p.m. during the week. So we have hours that generally doctors' offices don't operate in, and that's to be able to be available for our patients. So we're always available for any questions. We encourage our patients to call in with questions. If you're trying a product and it doesn't work well for you, we encourage you to call us and we could try to give you a different recommendation of something else to try. And a lot of times that is handled by our office staff because they're very familiar with the products firsthand. They're patients themselves. They know what other patients what works well for different patients. But the doctors as well are regularly available. We don't charge for questions along the way. And then, like I said, the state requires that you come back in every 210 days. That's the maximum. Some places will make you come in every 35 days or 70 days just to make more money off you. We don't do that. So every 210 days you come in, you tell the doctor what's worked, what hasn't worked, you make additional recommendations, or just call in anytime. Well, we just want people to get relief that they're looking for.
Well, and I think that's key, is you develop the relationship,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we know is community is really important. Wow, that was great. I learned a lot. I
Great
hope you did too. You guys asked some great questions. Did we try and sell you anything? Okay, always making sure. So then the question becomes, what are you going to do with the information you received today? So you may want to make yourself a note on your little sheet of your action plan. Maybe it's a question you want to ask your general practitioner physician. Maybe it's something you want to discuss when you go home with your friends. And these guys are going to be available to answer any questions that you may have. Just a reminder, you are our connection to the world, so tell your friends about what you've learned today. If you'd like a full schedule of our seminars, we've got them available for you. You can take one of those with you. I encourage you to stop in the back of the room and get to meet some of our educational partners if you haven't already done so. I promise they will not bite. They've got a lot of good information. Again, a reminder about the seminar. So Susan's going to be out there snatching them out of your hand, or collecting your survey, before you leave. So that blue sheet is what she's going to be looking for. Our next seminar is on March 20th. This will be the third in our Behind Closed Doors series, and we're going to be tackling the topic, I want to move, now what? I don't want to talk about all my stuff. So you'll want to be there for that. We also have, it's noted on the survey, we're going to be starting to do some workshops this year. Workshops are a little more narrow in focus, and we thought it would be just something good to add. So this one is going to be on April 15th, Avoiding Caregiver Burnout. Watercrest is going to be hosting that for us on April 15th. We're going to have limited seating, but if you'd like to come, it'll be a smaller group. But if you're in a situation as a caregiver, this would probably be very helpful for you to come to that. And then Nicole's going to be standing up so you can sign up for the community tours. We always close with a quote. This one is from the philosopher Paracelsus. I think I said his name right. The art of healing comes from nature, not from the physician. Therefore, the physician must start from nature with an open mind. So we thought that was appropriate for today. We look forward to seeing you at our next seminar. Thank you for coming. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.